is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
Well, the baseball calendar has turned from the month of August to the month of September, and almost on cue, so is the weather. From hot and humid August, it's a breezy, chilly night in the Steel City of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as Fox Sports Ohio brings you Cincinnati Reds baseball, the first of three between the Reds and the Buccos. Hi, hello, and welcome to Pittsburgh, everyone. Along with the crafty left-hander Chris Welch and Jim Day, I'm George Grand. You know, one thing you're sure of when you get to September, that good pitching usually shows up. Well, a week ago, good pitching showed up for both of these two clubs, and they're going to go at it again tonight, Chris.
It was a very interesting game last time out because it was the same matchup that we've got tonight, Castillo and Garrett Cole. And Cole did what his manager said was Little League, meaning he pitched a complete game or nearly a complete game or certainly an excellent outing and hit a home run to beat Castillo. But Castillo's a guy, George, that has been so impressive ever since coming to the major leagues. He got a little bit late start. I mean, he's 24 years old. By the time that Garrett Cole was 24, he probably already had 30 major league wins under his belt. But he is excellent. A fastball that ranges up to 100 miles per hour. He's got a plus changeup. He's learning a slider. He's got a little bit more movement with a two-seam fastball. I mean, it's just looking better and better every time he takes them out.
Luis Castillo and Garrett Cole tipped their hats to each other. Both of them pitched well last time out. Garrett Cole not only pitched well for the first time in his career, he beat the Reds, something he had never done before.
Well, you're right, and you wonder maybe once he got that off his back, whether he's just going to be a tough train to slow down. He's getting really a second wind here in the second half of the year. And in a season which has been kind of up and down for Cole, he's throwing the ball as well now as he has all year long.
And not only did he pitch well, his third career major league homer. One of them came here in Pittsburgh. The other two have been on the road. So for Garrett Cole, who always was a pretty good hitter, he's showing everybody he could do it at the major league level too. A whole lot more to talk about. This is a night where Major League Baseball is paying attention to childhood cancer. We'll talk about that. And Jim Day will have his moments of the month as we continue from Pittsburgh on Fox Sports Ohio.
level, some of those moments become very special. And one special moment happened yesterday, and it involved Joey Votto. It actually had started a week prior when young Walter Super Bubs, as they call him, Herbert, a 6-year-old Make-A-Wish child suffering from pediatric cancer, visited the Reds and spent some time with Joey Votto and was the team's honorary captain on that day. He returned with his family yesterday, and before his 7th inning at bat, Joey Votto pointed to Walter. And then, as fate would have it, in that at bat, the second pitch he saw, he hit a majestic home run. Check him out looking back over at Walter and pointing at him, saying, "That one's for you." Joey, before he goes into the dugout, high fives Walter and says, "Hold on, wait, I've got more." Gives him the bat he hit the home run with, and then the jersey off of his back. Dad Wally, Mom Emily couldn't believe it. His mom saying Joey has a huge heart. Votto, after the game, said, I honestly don't want to chat about this one. He was emotional about it and wanted no more credit. He wanted all the attention of that young guy, Walter Super Bubs Herbert, a 6-year-old. And George and Chris, there's a physical side of baseball and the human side. And Joey Votto displayed the human side in the best way yesterday.
Touching moment yesterday, and that continues today. All of Major League Baseball, the Pirates and the Reds as well, paying attention to childhood cancer. We'll talk more about that as the night progresses tonight. The Pirates are wearing their gold uniforms, trimmed uniforms today, in a Stand Up to Cancer night, as Major League Baseball will raise awareness for the fight against childhood cancer by giving not just money, as they will, but also the thoughts, the prayers of all of us to battle what has been a horrendous disease that affects every family. And so touching yesterday what Joey Votto did, and that continues here tonight. We're ready to play baseball. Billy Hamilton will lead it off. Zach Cozart will bat second, and Joey Votto will bat in the number 3 spot for the Reds. Billy has hit well against the Pirates, .300 for the month of August, and from a standpoint of this Bucco rivalry, he's stolen 47 bases against Pittsburgh, more than any other team. This one banged into center field, and the Reds get their leadoff batter on as Hamilton marches down to first. Here's the rest of your Menard starting lineup. Cozart will bat in the number 2 spot. Votto hits third. Adam Duvall will hit up in the cleanup spot. Scooter Gennett, after a red-hot month of August, will hit in the number 5 hole. Suarez and Schebler each have hit well against Cole in their career. Stuart Turner is your catcher. You know about Tucker Barnhart, and congratulations to Tucker. He and Sierra welcomed their new baby, Tatum, a baby boy, as the march of young Reds continues. So Turner's behind the plate, and Castillo's on the mound batting in the 9th spot. And on the mound for the Pirates, Chris, is a guy who pitched about as well as you could pitch. Garrett Cole last time out against the Reds.
Well, he did, George, and he also won the game with a home run that he hit, so he couldn't get a whole lot better for that than Cole. He's thrown the ball very well lately. One thing he has not done very well in his career is hold runners. So I would imagine the stolen base game for Billy Hamilton is in full gear here tonight.
And you see the shoes that Billy is wearing, speaking of childhood cancer, those white baseball shoes complete with signatures from children from Cincinnati Children's Hospital. So he honors them as he marches out with his major league leading 55 stolen bases, with a pretty big lead off first now. No balls, 1 strike to Cozart.
And you can see one of the problems that Cole has in holding runners, that his move to first base, and that is, if he has shown this good move so far, is very deliberate. It's almost a 2-piece move. He doesn't jump step quick to first base and have quick feet and kind of short throw with the short arm. So he's given up 14 stolen bases this year. They've only thrown out 1.
A little bit bigger lead for Billy. You talk about it often, Chris. If you don't have a great move to first, what else can you do? And he's tried to do more of it, and that's just vary his timing to the plate.
That's really about the only thing you can do, and you can also mix in a slide step like he did on his last delivery.
1 ball, 1 strike to Cozart. There goes Billy. It's a late break. Here's Stewart's throw. It's going to be into center field, and Hamilton's going to wind up at third. So stolen base number 56 for the man with the happy feet. And he's at third with nobody out. And a 2-1 count to Cozart.
This is one of those plays that, you know, Billy Hamilton's got it stolen. The second baseman can't get to it because he would go right into the sliding runner. And because this ballpark is so big, the outfielders have to play a little bit deep. So, you know, McCutchen couldn't even be charging at the time of the play and still be able to get there. So Hamilton ends up on third base.
Stewart, pretty good catch and throw guy. He just tried to unload that rapidly. He didn't have much of a chance to get Billy to start with. Stewart's behind the plate because Cervelli is back on the disabled list one more time for the Buccos. In the dirt, good block by Stewart. Pirates will keep the infield back in the middle of the infield. At the edge of the grass at first is Bell. So the only place that would prevent the Reds from getting a run on a ground ball would be a ground ball to first. Cole peers in for a sign from Stewart. 3 balls, 1 strike to the Reds' number 2 hitter. And that's ball 4. Here's your 4 defensive alignment for Pittsburgh. In the outfield, Starling Marte, after serving his suspension, is back, still struggling to get his offense going again, but a solid defender. He's in left. Andrew McCutchen in center. Jaso in for his bat is in right. Freese, Mercer, Josh Harrison, the Cincinnati product, over at second, and Josh Bell, outstanding offensive player as a rookie, down at first, and Stewart behind the plate. That's your 4 defensive alignment. So here's Joey in at 310, now 34 homers and 91 knocked in. You got a peek at number 34 from Jim Day just prior to the game. And what a year. As usual, he leads all of Major League Baseball in on-base percentage with a .448 number. Those are MVP numbers. Had the Reds been in a pennant race, he'd be high on the list of any MVP vote. First and third for the Reds, still nobody out. High fly ball, right center field, going back. Jaso at the wall, looking up. It is going to be one hopping off the wall. 1 run will score. Cozart will stop at third, and Votto has another 2-bagger, and the Reds have a 1-0 lead.
There's only one.
Boy, Votto just continues an amazing year. You know, in the first half it was more about power, and the second half has been more about on-base percentage. But his last couple of games, I mean, he's got a fastball like that from Jeurys Familia yesterday, and he launched it way back into the right field sun deck. And this one, he had far enough into that right center field corner up there, that gap, that no one was able to run it down. Although I got to tell you, I'm not real thrilled by the Pirates' pursuit if I was a Pirate fan.
They've had some defensive lapses, especially during this string where they have really struggled. They had a good burst in the month of July where it looked like they were getting back in the pennant race for Clint Hurdle and his ball club. But of late, they've played lackluster baseball, to say the least. Popped up. There's Bell down the right field line at the edge of the tarp. It'll be in the seats.
You know, though, George, I know that there's a handful of pitchers in that Reds dugout and probably some out in that bullpen that are thinking right now, Billy Hamilton's got that ball in his back pocket in right center field. I mean, that's what you get used to. And they don't have that here in Pittsburgh like they thought they would.
And remember, the normal right fielder Polanco is on the disabled list for the 3rd time this year with that pulled hamstring. Jaso in there largely for his bat. Frazier's also on the disabled list. Defensively, at one point you thought this might be the best defensive outfield in the National League, and now none of them are playing like that. This one drilled to center field. McCutchen going back at the warning track, looking up. It's off the top of the wall. 2 runs are going to score. Duvall back-to-back doubles with Votto, and the Reds have a 3-0 lead. This is more like the way the Reds have played against Garrett Cole throughout his career. His win against the Reds was the first of his career Saturday in Cincinnati. But here, Duvall, who struggled during the month of August, gets only his 2nd hit in his career against Cole, but it's a double that makes it 3-0.
Well, every one of the Reds' hits have been a ringing base hit, and every one on a fastball. It seems like every time he throws that fastball, it's going right down the middle and being greeted with a sweet spot on the bat.
And I tell you, Chris, both of those balls on another night here at PNC Park probably would have been out. The wind tonight is blowing in from center and right center. Both of them And an extra 10 feet of wind going the other way would have been 2 home runs. As it is for Adam, that's his 33rd double. The 2 runs batted in now give him 91 on the season. That's 1 behind Joey Votto, who drove in his 92nd of the year. And here's Scooter. 287, 23 homers, and 81 knocked in. Bell backhands it. He'll get it to Cole, and there's an out.
Another hard hit ball. Look where these pitches are that Garrett Cole is throwing. I mean, he's just kind of rearing back and throwing it as hard as he can, and it's going right down the middle. And it's just not hard enough to throw it by Reds hitters.
On the ground ball to first, Duvall goes to third. So with the infield coming in now, there's Cole's numbers from Saturday. 7 innings, no earned runs, 6 strikeouts after an 0-6 mark prior to that. And Suarez is one of those who's performed well against Cole. He's 3 for 10 against him in his career. Behind him is Schebler, who's also 3 for 10, and that's just foul down the third base line. Suarez off a pretty hot month of August where he hit 348, trying to continue that roll here into September. The Reds, a roll of their own. They finished over 500 at 15-14 for the month of August. Small step, but for a team that struggled all year long, that's something that this club can be proud of.
Well, they've got a chance that they can beat they can catch the Pirates. They're 6 games back of them right now, and I think if you are looking for little goals and little victories, why not that being one of them?
That's a strike, says Ted Barrett, the home plate umpire. Angel Hernandez is down at first. John Tumpain is your second base umpire, and Sean Barber your third base umpire, and his umpiring crew in Pittsburgh here tonight. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Suarez. Setting up down and away is Stewart. To go fishing for it, and the runner will be stranded at third for the second out of the inning. Suarez swings and misses for strikeout number 1, out number 2 in the inning, and here comes Schebler.
Well, Cole's got a good slider. I mean, it's a put-away slider. Gets a lot of strikeouts with that pitch, especially against right-handed hitters. But you know, the Reds previous to Suarez did not allow him to get the 2 strikes. He's got just about 1 strikeout for every inning he's pitched, and for a starter, that's a tough thing to do.
Duvall off third. Here's Schebler in at 240 now. 26 homers and 56 knocked in for Schebler. The stint on the disabled list for that sore shoulder proved to be productive, because since he's come back, he's been red hot. 351 for the month of August. That's fouled off to the left side.
You know, how nice is it for the Reds to have Scott Schebler to stick in the number 7 spot in the lineup? I mean, normally you look at a lot of teams, second half teams, second division teams, and you look at the 7, 8, 9 in the lineup and they're automatic outs. But that is a long way from being true with Schebler in there. Guy's kind of scary because he's very strong. You're not sure which pitches he's going to hit. Early in the year, opposing pitchers were kind of running the ball up the ladder on him, trying to gate him to chase. He doesn't seem to be doing that quite as much now. So his strike zone management's getting a lot better.
2 balls, 1 strike. Almost as scary as I'm sure Todd Frazier. I looked the other day when Frazier was traded, of course, from the Reds to the White Sox, and then the White Sox to the Yankees. Frazier batted 9th in the Yankees lineup the game before last. That's some kind of number 9 hitter. Ripped but foul down the right field line. Full count, 3-2 with 2 outs. The Reds on a single and a stolen base by Hamilton, a walk to Cozart, double by Votto, double by Duvall, lead at 3-0. Stewart Turner on deck. Down the right field line, that's curving. It will go foul also. Reds have had the Pirates number for the most part this year. Pittsburgh took 2 out of 3 last weekend in Cincinnati. But on the season, the Reds have won 9 of the 13 games played between these two teams, including 5 of the 6 played here in Pittsburgh.
Well, the Reds have played really well against Central Division teams overall. I think they're very close to 500 in that mark.
That fastball beats him, so back-to-back strikeouts end the inning, but not before the Reds wind up with a Votto double to make it 1-0, a Duval double to make it 3-0, and here comes Luis Castillo. From the Steel City of Pittsburgh, Cincinnati Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio, being brought to you by Chevy. Check out our award-winning lineup only at your tri-state Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili. Hey, feeling good? It's Skyline time. That's the Roberto Clemente Bridge from downtown Pittsburgh out to PNC Park. Let's check the starting lineup for Clint Hurdle, sponsored by Menards. The Buccos come in after dropping 3 in a row after winning back-to-back games and 3 of 5. They've gone 5 and 13 in the last 18. Josh Harrison, the Cincinnati product, leads it off. Marte McCutcheon to follow. Bell, Freese, Jaso, Mercer, Stewart, and Cole. That's your Menards starting lineup. And on the mound for the Reds, the electric right arm of Luis Castillo. Chris.
Well, the emerging, probably top of the rotation pitcher that I think the Reds have been just floored by his progress since coming over from the Miami Marlins. I mean, he was very advanced when he got here, especially for a guy that ended up starting in Double-A this year. But I think he's made great steps here this year, and mainly with mound presence, the understanding of what he has to do out there. Just watch him. He just looks like he's been a 10-year veteran.
Down to third, but foul. Past Joey Cora, the third base coach for this Pittsburgh Pirates ball club. Tamero Barti, the first base coach. Barti, former Cincinnati Red outfielder, back in the day when he was an outstanding outfielder on the major league level. Two balls, 2 strikes to Josh. Harrison always finds a way to impact the series between the Reds and the Buccos. This one pop foul and out of play. The Cincinnati native, Princeton High School and UC product. Just a joy to be around on the field or off. He plays the game with a great love, a great electricity, and one of the leaders by the way he plays on this Pirate club. Swing and a miss, but fouled off actually.
You know, watch him at the plate, and he stands as far from the home plate as just about any hitter that you're going to find around. He really dives in, and maybe not so much now with 2 strikes as he was, but watch that left foot of his go right towards the first base line. that tells me as a pitcher, well, I really like to pitch him inside because he's going to jam himself. The problem is he's got short arms, a very short swing, and he can barrel up the ball on the inner part of the bat, but he really kind of dives towards that plate every time.
Been one of the few Pirates that's been hot of late, over 300 for the last 2.5 weeks. Look out, that's rifled into the seats. Pirates have used 7 different players in the leadoff spot this year. The most productive is the guy who's sitting there right now for the very reason that you mentioned, Chris. He'll force a pitcher to use a lot of deliveries and give the guys behind him a chance to see what you've got. One-handed swing to left, but right there is Adam Duvall. And there's one away. Here's your 4 defensive alignment for the Reds. The guy on the left leads all of Major League Baseball with 13 assists. Josh Hamilton right behind him with 11, and Schebler with 6. More assists than any other outfield in all of baseball. Suarez, Cozart, Scooter Gennett, and Votto across the infield, and Stuart Turner in for the new daddy, Tucker Barnhart, who's home with Tatum, his brand new baby boy. He and Sierra, congratulations, Tucker. Been a productive year for catching babies. Turner has a brand new baby, so does Tucker Barnhart, and of course the Mesoraco family too. Not bad. Here's Marte at 256, 4 homers and 19 knocked in. It's right about where he's been since he came back off the suspended list, right about the 250 mark.
Yeah, you can point to a lot of things this year as to why the demise of the Pirates, and lately it's really been a dagger to them. They've lost 13 of their last 18 games, but really the big blow was losing Marte. And not necessarily only losing him for what, 50 games, but how they did it. Suspended 80 games. That was 80. So I mean, he was suspended for using PEDs. I mean, come on, you talk about letting yourself down, your family down, your teammates down. That's the kind of loss that's very tough to overcome emotionally for a ball club.
They lost him for 80 games, and of course Jung Ho Gong, the outstanding offensive third baseman, has never been a part of this club, unable to get into the country after legal problems, and then not even sure if he'll be back next year. And had frequent visits to the disabled list for Frazier, Polanco, and Cervelli again. And the Pirates have had underachieving numbers for those that are on the field, and those that are off the field have certainly damaged their hopes for this potential wild card run in the second half of the year. Here's McCutchen. He had a 2-month flare where it looked like he was back to his old self, but he struggled in August at 222 with only 1 home run. He's sitting on 23 homers. He and Josh Bell are tied for the team lead with 23. Overall at 277. Big swing and a miss. You look at the slow start when the Reds played him the first time, he was struggling, and then had a solid middle part of the season and then struggled in the month of August once again. Short lead for Marte. Hit hard down to third. 5-4, and there'll be no throw to first. Slow developing down at third, and I don't know if Scooter Gennett had a complete hand on the ball anyways, but not much of a chance to get McCutchen, so it's a 5-4 fielder's choice.
You can hear the old coach in your ear right now. Make sure you get one out of a play like that. That's what Gennett was able to do. You know, sometimes you reach into your glove, you just don't have a good feel of it. And it also could be the fact that Marte was right on top of him when he was trying to make the turn.
So 2 away, runner still at first, and here's Josh Bell. If you look for bright offensive spots, this guy's at the top of the list for the Pirates, and really for the American League. I mean, if it wasn't for Bellinger, he'd be the odds-on favorite to be the Rookie of the Year. And 262, 23 homers, 77 knocked in, and rookie offensive statistics, he's in the top 5 in every important category. Fastball in tight, 1-1.
So Josh Bell is one of those hitters that coming up through the Pirates minor league system from the time that he was 19 years old in 2012 has just put up one solid offensive year after another. I mean, he's always had a good eye at the plate. He's always had a good batting average. He's got marginal power, but he'll hit a ball hard and mostly a gap type hitter. So he was one of those guys that you look at after being in the minor leagues for a while. You're thinking, well, you know what? The step through the major leagues, he may have to adjust a little bit, but his pedigree shows that he will eventually hit at this level. And they really need him to be, because they're in search of a left-handed enforcer.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs.
Especially with Polanco not around.
Dribble towards the middle of the infield. Cozart has it, and that'll do it. A walk, but no harm. Reds lead at 3-0. Going to the top of 2. Turner will lead it off. Brought to you by Elk and Elk, serious lawyers for serious injuries and serious offense for the Reds in the month of August. Overall, as we told you, 1 game over 500, first winning month since July of last year, the 3rd under Brian Price. 49 homers, most in any month since 2001, and 5.7 runs per game, highest in any month since 2007. Pretty good offensive numbers for the Reds. They'd love to keep it going here in the month of September and end strong. First pitch swinging is Turner, dribbled to short. Strong arm Jordy Mercer guns it across, and there's 1 away. Well, Stewart's retired, and here's Castillo. Castillo batting in the number 9 spot. That's a strike 1 to the Reds pitcher. The Reds will roll into Pittsburgh with, again, the rookie-laden starting rotation. 4 of the 5 members of this rotation, all rookies. Swing and a miss. That's the 3rd strikeout for Cole. For tonight's AARP Getting to Know You, the Reds' September 1st call-ups. Only a couple of them to this point. Ariel Hernandez, the 3rd Reds reliever in team history to have 5 strikeouts in his major league debut. That was back in the first month of the season against the Brewers. Tony Cingrati and Angel Torres also did that. And Zach Vinci won the 2016 minor league Gold Glove at shortstop. So he will make his major league debut at some point in time. There's Zach. Good to see him up. You had a chance to watch him a lot in spring training, Chris. Smooth glove work.
Really good glove work. Had not a bad year. I think he batted 260 or 270 or so down in the minor leagues, AAA all the time. Played shortstop every day for the Bats. We saw him play a lot in spring training. He was really impressed with the glove there. It's kind of one of those feel-good stories because he was something like a 34th round draft pick that the Reds had, and here he is in the major leagues.
1, 2, 3 go the Reds in the second. To the bottom of 2 we go. Freeze, Jaso, Mercer duo.
Top moments in August. We showed you Joey Votto yesterday in the open. The month started with this. Let's take you back to August 1st. Jesse Winker, a day he'll never forget. And it was against these Pirates right here at PNC Park, his first Major League home run. And of course, when you're a rookie, you get the silent treatment. But Jesse says, all right, I got you. Do my own low fives. Oh, Scooter Jeanette, that's just cold. Does his own high fives, low fives, jumps up. And then finally gets congrats from his teammates.
That was a fun moment. That was pretty good. By the way, he said he feels a lot better, getting closer after the hip impingement that he's had. But we hit the month of August. 2 call-ups so far for the Reds. More might be coming. And for the Pirates, same story. Their AAA team, Indianapolis, the Indianapolis Indians, have clinched their division in the race for the Governor's Cup in the International League. So they're reluctant to call up a bunch, but certainly during the course of the next couple of weeks there'll be more call-ups for the Buccos. Congratulations to Max Schumacher and the Indians, and also to our good friend Howard Kellman, who's heading to the postseason broadcasting for the Indianapolis Indians.
I'll never forget, George, when I was pitching for the Indianapolis Indians in 1984. Remember the Expos organization back then? We were in the playoffs. We won, and had a big celebration. And I took Howard Kellman's toupee right off his head during the celebration, and we poured champagne all over it. And I think that was the last time he wore it.
You're right.
Yeah.
He looks, you know, he looks.
So he has me to thank for that.
You did him a favor.
He didn't know that at the time.
He looked sharp.
He was angry for about 6 months.
He looked sharp.
And maybe it wasn't champagne. It could have been Bud Light.
That was the home of the Wiedemann Wallop. The big sign in the outfield.
Yeah.
David Freese. 3 balls, 2 strikes against Castillo. Fouled off. Reds have been fortunate to partner with Indianapolis and Louisville over the years for a AAA franchise that is within striking distance. Not every team has the luxury of that. Here's a bouncer. towards the middle of the infield and through. So David Freese gets a base hit. That's a first hit for the Pirates. Leadoff batter on here in the second. And that'll bring up Jaso.
Looks like a changeup that just kind of gets up in the zone a little bit. David Freese had an awful series against the Reds when the Pirates were most recently in Cincinnati. Good solid player though, good defender, shows up, good teammate in the clubhouse.
Had some big years, especially for the Cardinals, and over the years has hit well against the Reds. This year was really a blip on the radar screen. He's around 300 for his career against Cincinnati. Short lead for Freese, not likely to steal. Here's Jaso, struggling again offensively at 223 with 9 homers and 31 knocked in. The Reds overshift to the right side with the pull hitting Jaso at the plate. Votto playing in front of the runner down at first. They do not expect Freese to attempt to steal. This one drilled to right, going back, looking up. Over his head is Schebler. A rounding third. They're going to send him. Here comes the relay throw, will not be made, and a run scores. So it's a double for Jaso. He picks up his 32nd run batted into the season, and the Pirates are on the board. They trail it 3-1.
You know, John Jaso is primarily a off-the-bench pinch hitter, but a very good one. He can really hit a fastball. So when he plays every day like he has been with the absence of Gregory Polanco, you've got to be careful where you throw that fastball. And he gets that timing down perfect and drops the head.
So still no one out. Jaso sitting at second, and here comes Mercer. Pretty good power year for Mercer with his 12 homers, now 51 knocked in. You don't expect him to hit much more than he's at the midpoint of the 250s, but it'll always give you solid defense. That's a strike on the outside corner. Votto pulled way off the line over at first. And Scooter almost behind the bag at second.
That's the changeup that Castillo just threw, and you know it comes out of the exact same arm slot. Hitters can't really figure it out. It's got great depth too. Look at that pitch go down. It actually sinks more than his slider sinks. Slider kind of moves across the zone on the same plane.
Just missing there. 2-2.
Back-to-back changeups. You know, going back to some Reds pitchers that had great changeups. You know, Browning had a great changeup. Chris Rietzma had a great changeup. And of course, the standard is Mario Soto. And I've seen him throw, you know, back-to-back-to-back changeups many times. See if Castillo does that here for the third one in a row. Slider. That's what I mean about the slider that he throws. All it would take for Luis Castillo is a one slight adjustment to get his fingers a little more on top of the ball, and that slider goes down rather than across. And it's one of those things that you work on and you get sometimes, and then you get through the game and it eludes you a little bit.
Full count, 3-2. Nubbed foul. And that brings you back to why you need 3 quality pitches. On any given night, you're probably not going to have all 3 working.
Well, you never have all 3 working except on those really great nights. But I think what he could learn to do and will learn as his experience really begins to kick in, is he'll learn how to get easy innings by pitching away from good contact, but still get contact. I mean, there's no way in the world, Luis Castillo throwing 98 miles an hour, that Jordy Mercer should string this at bat out to 8 or 9 pitches. There's no way. Mercer's not up there all choking up just trying to slap the ball. He's taking a full cut, yet he's still making enough contact to stay alive in the at bat. Castillo's stuff is so good, he should be able to put him away in 4 pitches or less.
Full count, 3-2. And he hangs in. And it brings us back to what we talked about in our pregame show tonight, Chris, on your Tech Talk. Why aren't there as many complete games today? There are a lot of reasons, but you touched on one of them right there.
Well, hitters hanging around in this ball game. Actually, there's only 2 of the 7 hitters that Castillo has faced have seen fewer than 5 pitches. So if they want to get the pitch count up, they're doing it so far.
Another full count delivery, bounce down to short. Kozart up and throwing. They get the out at first. The runner holds at second. First out of the inning as Mercer grounds out, and here comes Chris Stewart, the catcher.
I mean, really, if you're Castillo, you're thinking, I get a ground ball out of the number 7 hitter in the lineup. Why couldn't I have done that on the 3rd pitch and not the 9th pitch? But that is when, in your first year in the major leagues, you're not thinking about that stuff. You're thinking about surviving every inning.
The Jaso, after his run-scoring double, still sitting at second. Here's Stewart in at 180. No homers and 3 knocked in. Cubs won this afternoon over Atlanta by a final score of 2-0. Cubs just completed a sweep of the Pirates in Pittsburgh, winning the last game 17-3 and really ending the Pirates' hopes for staying alive in the divisional race and putting a damaging blow to their hopes in the wild card as well. Hit hard but fouled on the 3rd base line. That's way high and wide. In the American League this afternoon, the Indians beat Detroit by a final score of 3-2. So the Central Division lead right now 7 games for Cleveland over Minnesota. There's a dribbler pass. Votto, that's going to send the runner around third. Here comes the throw to the plate. They got a shot at him, and he's going to be safe. Ball dropped by Turner. Good throw by Shevler, but it took him a long time to get to that roller down the first base line. So a base hit by Stewart plates a run, and it's a 3-2 ball game.
Boy, the bottom of the order coming through for the Pirates here. The second half of the order started it. Base hits by Freese and Jaso, and then this opposite field, look to left, hit to right, shot by Stewart. Looks like they still got him at the plate. If he could just hold on to it, that is Stewart Turner hold on to it. Just took a bounce up and went off his chest protector.
Pitcher Cole, who homered against Castillo and the Reds last Saturday in Cincinnati, shows bunt here with a runner on first. From the stretch, Castillo. Suarez in tied at third. That's pop foul and out of play. Cole, throughout his high school years, an outstanding hitter as well as a great pitcher. And Chris, we've talked about it over the years a lot. When he was drafted, there wasn't much of a doubt that he was going to go near the top of the draft.
Well, he's one of the very few amateur players of all time that have not drafted not once but twice in the first round. Of course, the second time out of UCLA, he was the first pick overall.
Votto looks to second, and it is 9 time.
Votto looked like he had a micro hesitation right there. He charged hard on every one of the pitches of this at bat. He wanted to get that lead runner at second base, but when he finally had a chance right here, he feels it, turns, and then looks, and then he decides to throw. And I think maybe he couldn't get the ball out of his glove, or maybe just the throw took him off the bag. Now, that's a good play by Votto. Just the throw was wide. You know, I'd rather have him try that and get that lead runner right here. You know, if you have a chance to do it.
Well, Mac Jenkins is on his way out to talk to his young right-hander just to make sure the inning does not get out of control. 2 on, still 1 out, and 2 runs into this point.
You know, interesting on Castillo. 2 wins, 7 losses. This is his 14th start, but he is second on the team for all year for the most quality starts by a Red starter. He's tied with Tim Adelman with 7. And Scott Feldman, by the way, Adelman has 20 starts. And Scott Feldman has 9 quality starts to lead the team. I think he had 23 starts overall this season. So you can just see how quickly Castillo has adjusted to life at the major league level.
Adelman, of course, in the bullpen, and Scott Feldman on the disabled list. Ripped but foul by Harrison. We talked about how he struggled during the month of August with no runs, but this is the way August went for him. He's hoping September is different, and tonight 3 runs of support. That's more than he's had for over a month.
Well, really, same thing happened when he was down in Pensacola. I think he only had 4 wins down there in 14 starts, even though his earned run average was something like 2.7. So he's been pitching in tough luck really everywhere he's gone this year. But if you're going to pitch in tough luck, you might as well do it up here and not down in Double-A. Ground ball gets him out of the inning.
And while he toils in his second inning, and the bullpen, Asher Wojciechowski is starting to loosen for the Reds. Well, you don't know if he might have said there's something bothering him, or they just don't want him to get beat up early in a year when they're going to be very cautious of his pitch count total and his innings total heading into September. Already 30 pitches in the second inning after a pretty easy first inning where he walked 1 batter. Harrison flied to left first time up. That's dribble foul. And we've talked a lot about it, Chris, the number of rookies that the Reds have used. I mean, 16 rookie pitchers this year alone. All the rookie starters, and over the last 3 years, a bevy of rookie starting pitching. But with that comes a concern over number of innings pitched when you get to September.
It's something the major league teams have latched onto and pretty much do uniformly all throughout the big leagues. I mean, I guess the measured amount is you want somewhere around, 20% more innings every year you go. So in this case of Castillo, you're looking at maybe an extra 35 innings this year over last year. I don't know if that's exactly science or not, but it's something that every team is looking at and trying to reduce the number of injuries.
Dribble down to short. They'll get one at second, and that's all.
And even though teams over the last, Georgia have been doing this for more than just last 2 or 3 years. They've been doing it for 6 or 7 years now, really taking a look at young pitchers and how many innings they can throw and how many pitches per game they're going to throw and so on. But in the last 10 years since they've really started looking at it and taking care of those pitchers, guess what?
It's gotten worse.
Pitching injuries have skyrocketed. So, you know, there might be something else going on besides just the number of innings that you pitch, especially since today we're on that, you know, the complete game piece that we did in the pregame show. Well, believe me, back in the 70s when there were, you know, hundreds of complete games pitched every year and 33 by the Cincinnati Reds alone, those guys were pitching well over 200 innings. I mean, 200 was the minimum that you wanted your starting pitchers to go. Now it's the maximum.
First and third, 2 away. Castillo to the stretch. To Marte, who walked first time up. Off his foot and foul. Can't forget about Harrison down on first. He'll steal the base for you if you don't pay attention to him. Runner not going. Swing and a miss. Marte is retired, but 6 come to the plate in the second inning. Run scoring hits by Jaso and Stewart, and it's a ball game again. Break brought to you by T-Mobile. Trades made yesterday, boy, right down to the wire. How about the Angels? They're not giving up. For Mike Socia and company, they acquired Justin Upton and former Red Brandon Phillips. Upton, 28 homers, 94 knocked in, his best year. Phillips, a great year. Brandon at 291, picked up his 2,000th hit this past week. Mom was able to get to Philadelphia to see that happen. And the Astros picked up Justin Verlander and Cameron Maybin. They're not giving up either. Verlander and his big contract go to Houston. Maybin, 22 homers and 29 stolen bases. So very seldom do you see down to the wire big time deals like that. And there were some big ones yesterday.
Well, of course, that was the second trading deadline. Those deals had to be done before September 1st came around so that the players they acquire are eligible for postseason. And Brandon Phillips actually had a no trade clause, and he had to waive that trade clause to go to the Anaheim Angels, who, by the way, are 11.5 games behind the Astros. So they've got no chance really of catching the Astros, but they're only 1.5 games back in the wild card.
Reds 3 in the first, run scoring double by Votto and a 2-run scoring double by Duval. Here's Cozart, bounces down to second. Speaking of guys who you thought might have been traded first on the July 31st and then the August 31st trading deadline, Zach Cozart still with the club as we head the month of September. And you got to figure, Chris, if he was not hurt, if he didn't have the quad problem, it probably would have happened sometime this year, because there were 4 teams that needed shortstops from May through August. And had he been healthy, I mean, you've talked to scouts, I've talked to scouts, all of them had a great respect for the way this guy plays the game and the year that he's having. So for the guy that a lot of people thought would be gone, we're in September, he's still a Red.
Well, he was placed out on waivers, evidently claimed by some team, unnamed so far, and the Reds pulled him back. Evidently they didn't want to make a deal, they just wanted to keep another team from getting Cozart. But if you're a scout and you've been watching the Reds all year long and you're writing reports about Zach Cozart, I mean, big on that report has to be his injury. You know, twice bothered with leg issues, not really related to his ACL tear that he's coming back from. Well, when you're 32 years old, you're playing middle infield, you have leg injuries, it's something that you have to note on the report. And that's probably scared a number of teams away.
By his own admission, he says it's a strange feeling to know that you're somewhat in limbo heading into the last month of the season. Will he be back as a Red, as a free agent? Where might he go? A whole lot of different things. Right now, I think his major goal, and it's happening slowly but surely, is to get healthy.
The business of baseball kicks in, you know, when you start looking at it like that. But I can tell you that, you know, you can't find a better teammate than Zach Cozart. I mean, he is as solid as they come.
On the field, off the field, he is, you know, they call him coach, but he's even much more than that. He's just a solid fiber to this ball club, and every place he's been, whether it's high school, college, and now at the professional level. You know,
so that's an intangible really that the Reds are going to have to consider when they may think about re-signing Cozart, maybe giving him, I forget what they call that, the offer that they have to give him to keep him, retain him. I think
qualifying offer.
The qualifying offer, which I think is in the neighborhood of $18 million
right.
next year. So it's a big decision, obviously. You know, number one, you know, is he going to be healthy? Number two, do you have somebody else to play that position adequately if he's not there? Number three, is the team going to contend and not contend if he is not with the ball club? So there are a lot of things to consider with Cozart. He sure brings a lot to the table.
Cozart and Votto bounce out, and Duvall gets his second hit, doubled in 2 runs in the first. This stroke into right makes him 2 for 2, and that ends an 0 for 8 string for the Reds after their 3-run first. Good sign for Adam, who struggled during the month of August, hitting only .209. The power numbers, of course, there, you know that, 31 homers and now 91 knocked in. And here's Scooter. He bounced to first his first time up. A lot of decisions, you know, we've talked a lot all year about the young players that the Reds have decisions to make on. Dick Williams, and it's all the way to the backstop. Going to second will be Adam. So Duvall's in scoring position with 2 away for Scooter. Another look.
That would be your video explanation of a wild pitch.
Just a bit outside. That's just a prayer for any catcher. Try to find a way to get something on it. Body, glove, anything. That's up high. You know, the other option for the Reds, you know, for Zach Cozart too, would you accept a shorter term deal as a free agent for less money to stay in Cincinnati? That's an option that he may decide on too. And the same story with Scooter. What do you do with Scooter Gennett? He's had a career year this year. Is that indicative of what he'll be next year? But well, he's been positive, like you talk about Cozart. He's been a positive addition to this clubhouse too.
I don't think you have to make a decision on Scooter. Just whether you want him on your roster or not. You know, he's under team control. He is arbitration eligible, but there are a lot of players on this team that are now arbitration eligible. I mean, he has given the Reds that extra left-handed thump that they would not have had they played Jose Peraza at second base every game.
3 balls, 1 strike. Center field, that's a base hit. Here comes Duvall around third. McCutchen will toss it into second. That'll be a run scoring hit for Scooter, his 82nd run batted in. And the Reds put back-to-back hits together, in that wild pitch set the stage for the 4th run for the Reds on the night.
Well, you got to figure that if you're Garrett Cole, you're thinking, all right, I go through Cozart and Votto, the 2 best hitters in this lineup, easy ground balls to start the inning. Then a scratch hit by Duvall, a wild pitch, and the next thing you know, I'm giving up another run, and it's a 2-run game.
And that'll get Suarez back to the plate. He struck out first time up.
Hey, Scooter is an interesting guy. I mean, he wore out Jacob deGrom yesterday in that game against the Mets. And here, Garrett Cole, you got to put him in the same level as Jacob deGrom, one of the better right-handed young pitchers coming up. You know, expected to be an all-star, half the number of seasons he's going to be in the big leagues. Hard thrower. And I mean, Scooter completely unfazed, one line drive after another.
1 ball, 1 strike to Suarez. Nibbles at the outside corner, 2-1. That's a strike. Hardy on the fastball. Suarez has struck out twice, but the Reds strike again. Scooter's RBI makes it 4-2 Cincinnati. Rocking arms, most strikeouts by a rookie pitcher since Castillo made his debut earlier this year. Luis, 83 in 13 starts. Marquez of the Colorado Rockies, 12 starts, 71 and 2/3 innings pitched, 71 strikeouts. So the rocket arm of the Reds right-hander is doing what all the scouting reports said he would do. Now the question is, how do you work yourself into the long-term starting role of a starting pitcher at the major league level?
How do you convince young pitchers coming up that strikeouts are fantasy league stuff, and that going deep into ball games is what your ball club needs? You got to give them 6 or 7 innings when you take them out, not 5 innings where you strike out 8 or 9. And You know, it's kind of a plague that's gone throughout baseball.
I remember when Dave Miley was the field coordinator for the Reds at the minor league level with the Reds when the Reds were in Sarasota, and he asked Tom Browning to speak to all the minor league pitchers, and Bugsy came in the night before. He says, what can I tell all these pitchers? You know, so he said, just come in and talk to them about how you got people out. So he was a nervous wreck the day before. The next morning he comes in and here's 30 pitchers lined up in the lunchroom in Sarasota. Here's the 1-ball 2-strike delivery. That's a strike 3 and a strikeout number 2. Back-to-back strikeouts now. First out of the 3rd inning for Castillo. Another look at this pitch, Chris.
Pretty good looking fastball. It looked like originally maybe it was his changeup. Hard to tell from way up where we are. You just have to look at the radar gun. That was definitely a changeup and a perfect spot to lock up McCutchen.
Great spot. So in the lunchroom here, these guys 6'5", 6'7", and he goes around the room and says, all right, guys, tell me how hard you throw it. It went from 95, 96 down to 88, 89. And he started off by saying, guys, I threw a perfect game throwing 86 miles an hour. And from there, he went on to talk for 45 minutes about strike 1, about get a batter in 3 pitches if you can. That's your goal. If you can get him to ground out in 3 pitches, you've done your work.
Of course, that 86 miles an hour back in the 80s, the way they measured the fastball is basically what you're seeing somebody throwing 93 is throwing nowadays, maybe even 94. Because the way they measure now is the ball right out of your hand, the speed of your hand. Back in the 70s and 80s, the radar guns would measure out in front of home plate. And you know, if you look on Game Day or any one of the MLB apps that show you pitch by pitch, they'll show you the real speed out of the hand and then the effective speed at home plate. And I think a lot of guys are getting credit for throwing 100 miles an hour when a lot of it has to do with how they're measuring the pitch.
Hey, Chris, you and I sat there and watched Nolan Ryan, or you sat there and watched J.R. Richard, or you sat there and watched Randy Johnson. Go down the list. I mean, Aroldis Chapman throws hard, but those guys did too.
Ooh. That's what you need right there is changing speeds, moving the ball around, and learning how to pitch. Really great back-to-back at bats there for Castillo here in the 3rd.
3 strikeouts for Castillo. Bell retired.
This is another changeup. That's turned into his strikeout pitch tonight. So yeah, George, you said earlier that, you know, every starting pitcher needs 3 pitches, and most do. I would say 95% of them do, but, you know, some do not. And Mario Soto is a guy that came to mind that, you know, he had a great fastball, a great changeup. It seemed like every time he threw a slider, he was backing up 3rd base. So he decided, you know, I'm not going to throw these sliders anymore. He'd mix it in now and again, but for the most part, he was so good with those 2 pitches that he was able to carve up the opposing lineup, you know, without that breaking ball.
That was like the great story that Johnny Roseborough used to tell about Sandy Koufax. And Henry Aaron would face Koufax. Here's Castillo's delivery. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And Koufax decided he was going to work on a slider after, you know, he had one of the greatest curveballs of all time. And he threw what then was measured at whatever. They didn't even have radar guns back then, but you knew it was electric. And he tried a slider. He just couldn't get Henry Aaron out. He threw a slider to Aaron. Aaron hit it about 1.5 miles up to right center field, and he came running around and said to, as he crossed home plate, said, tell Sandy he doesn't need that pitch. Some guys don't need that 3rd pitch. Soto didn't. Koufax didn't. Two balls, 2 strikes. Try it again, 2-2. It's about getting batters out, and it's about being pitch efficient. When you're at 75 pitches in the third inning, you know you're not going to be long for a 6 or 7 inning start. Yeah, and then there are other options. Remember Jameson Taillon, when he faced the Reds back in Cincinnati, he hit 100 pitches in the 6th inning, and people were saying, well, you got to be more pitch efficient than that. There's a grounder to short. But remember, Joey Votto, who's nobody's better than he, saw 31 pitches in 3 at-bats. That's 31 right there. 1, 2, 3 for Castillo. Your #1 mobile app for live Reds baseball. Stay connected with a fully customizable experience. Get Reds home screen icons and app features, as well as game day, live game video highlights, radio broadcast, statcast news, and a whole lot more. Download MLB.com at bat today. Chris, remember those days when the Rosy Reds would follow the Reds all over the country? Sometimes flying in, sometimes busting in. They are here in Pittsburgh.
Well, they're 60 strong, George. You're right down the right field line. Some of them are bundled up a little bit, believe it or not, here the first day of September. But enjoying the Reds. They come here to Pittsburgh a lot. One of their most desired destinations. They're going to have a weekend of fun here, the Rosy Reds. They started that organization back in 1964 when there was the danger that the National League was going to take the team out of Cincinnati. And if you're wondering where they got the name Rosy, it stands for Rooters Organized to Stimulate Interest and Enthusiasm in the Cincinnati Reds. Rosy Reds.
And that certainly epitomizes all of them. Just a great group. They still gather on a regular basis, and it's great to be around them, isn't it? I mean, they love the game. They love their Reds. Come wins or losses, doesn't make any difference. They're going to be behind their ball club.
And they're always looking for members. So if you have even the slightest hankering to find out about it, rosyreds.org will tell you everything you need to know.
Schebler skies this one to the left side. Is there going to be room? And it'll be 2 rows into the seats. Full count 3-2 to Schebler, who struck out first time up. I remember when the Reds trained at Al Lopez Field in Tampa, and when Sparky was managing the Reds, and a whole bunch of media people wanted to talk to Sparky about the ball club, and he came out of his little office and from the clubhouse heading out to the field, and they swarmed around him after a great year that the Reds had. That's ball 4. And I mean, the cameras, newspaper, magazine reporters said, "Gentlemen, hold on. I got something important to do here." And he turned around, went up the stairs, went to the Rosy Reds group that was in the stands. There might have been 100 of them that day. And he sat there and entertained them during the spring training workout. He knew where his bread was buttered, and he knew that there were special people up in those stands. What a group. What a tremendous group. So the Reds have the leadoff hitter on in the 4th. Here's Turner, who bounced to short first time up. Long look down at Billy Hatcher, who rolls through some signs for him.
Turner put a nice swing on a ball, hit an opposite field home run yesterday.
2 homers, 7 knocked in. Locked up on a breaking ball, but it's inside for ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Cole is one of those pitchers that will throw both the curveball and the slider. The slider will be in the 80s if you look at it on the radar gun, and then the curveball will be in the high 70s. The last pitch was a curve.
The Reds picked up Turner as a Rule 5 selectee, meaning they have to keep him on the roster all season long or offer him back to Minnesota. And they've been able to get to September doing that. Down to 3rd. Freeze will get 1 at 2nd, on to 1st. They'll turn it into 2. 5-4-3 double play erases the runner. 2 away, and here comes Castillo's spot. Hey, tomorrow on FS1, 2 of the top catchers in Major League Baseball face off when Yadier Molina and the Cardinals are out west to battle Buster Posey and the Giants. That's 3:30 Eastern, only on FS1. And for a decade, they've been the 2 best catchers in the National League. And Chris, he's probably not going to win it, but nobody behind the plate has had a better year this year than Tucker Barnhart. He has been spectacular. For the numbers tell part of the story. 48-49% all year in throwing out base runners with a rookie rotation. And then how many times night in and night out is he digging balls out of the dirt and making spectacular plays? You talk about the Reds leading in outfield assists, many of those at the plate, and they weren't just routine plays at the plate. They were diving plays, scooping plays by Tucker Barnhart. He's had a Gold Glove year. He
has had a Gold Glove year, and the one thing you don't hear anybody asking about Tucker Barnhart anymore is, can he play every day? Because that answer, well, that question was answered a long time ago.
3-0 pitch. There's a strike. The old Russ Nixon adage, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog, right? JD, happy day for the Tucker and Sierra and the family, huh?
Yeah, you mentioned Tatum Elliott Barnhart, born on the 31st. That'll be yesterday. 4:13 p.m. in Indianapolis. There's Sierra and the newest Reds edition. 8 pounds 7 ounces, 21 inches long. And Tucker, Sierra, we're happy for you, and we're thinking about you. Congratulations.
Gonna be a good dad. Tatum, lucky to have a good mom and a dad.
He's gonna have to turn that big pickup truck in for a little minivan, don't you think?
I don't think so. They may get a minivan, but that's going to stay. If it's not in the garage, it's next to the garage. Here's Billy Hamilton. Single, stole a base, scored in the 1st, bounced out in the 2nd.
You know, Cole is an example of a guy that he's 20 games over 500 in wins and losses, and he's only 26 years old. So he's done a really good job early in his career. I've always thought the next step for Cole, though, is to figure out how to have some easy innings, change speeds a little bit on the fastball, maybe a little finger pressure to get him to run the ball a little bit, get some ground balls. I mean, on that pitch that he walked the opposing pitcher, Luis Castillo, on a 3-1 pitch, it was 96 miles an hour. You could see him, you know, extra grunting like, you know, he had to throw a 3-1 pitch by the opposing pitcher. just still think he's more wired into power than he is actually pitching. And that's when he's able to make that transition. Then you really got something on your hands, because he's got immense talent.
For some pitchers, it comes early in a career. For some, it takes longer. Some never get there. But the one thing he has, that competitive drive that has been evident ever since he was a teenager in California. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Billy. Hit hard to short, but they'll turn it into a force at second. Well, Hamilton's 1 for 3, and he scored a run. Reds still lead at 4-2. Jaso due up.
On the fight against childhood cancer, as an estimated 300,000 cases of cancer affect children worldwide each year. Log on to MLBcommunity.org to learn more. And they are kicking it off here on September 1st. Childhood cancer awareness. And Billy Hamilton, you guys mentioned it earlier. The spikes he's wearing tonight are very, very special and near and dear to him. He recently was at Cincinnati Children's Hospital and had some youngsters that he met there sign those spikes, and here they are right here, and that is good stuff. I talked to him about it before the game, and his face just lit up, just making those children's day and carrying them and their fight right now to the field, Major League Baseball field. So kudos to Billy.
JD, you know, we've all been pretty fortunate to be around this game for a long time, and you see, you know, players have good years on the field, but the way players react off the field, the way they react with their fans and the community, is what you really take with you when a year is over or when a season is over. And I know the Reds may not have won as many games as they wanted to this year, but the quality of some of the guys on this club makes your job a lot easier day in and day out.
It really does, George, and I've been around some teams that you know, had some so-called bad guys in the clubhouse. It wasn't a great mix, and this is a really good group of guys. They certainly want to win more baseball games, but as far as chemistry goes and things they do off the field, this is a good group, and Billy Hamilton is certainly as fan-friendly as anyone on this team, or anyone in the game for that matter.
Chris, you've been on teams that were losing, and you had veteran players or players that have been around a while that could help to turn a team south by not chipping in, not trying to help the young guys learn and grow. When you have that, a season can go bad. You know, in spite of the fact this club hasn't won as many as they wanted to, it's been great to watch some of the veteran players like the Cozarts and the Vottos and people like that help bring these guys along.
It's a tough thing to do. You know, the month of September for a losing team is oftentimes, you know, the time that guys are anxious to get the season over with and go make their own friends. But I echo Jim's sentiments that this is the team that really doesn't have any bad guys. Although I'm sure that there are some former Reds out there, Jim, they're wondering, geez,
I was traded away from the Reds. Am I one of the bad guys that Jim Day is referring to?
It's like a player to be named later in a trade.
Yeah.
Find out down the road, maybe.
You made us never name him.
Yeah, it's funny. You talk about players that are great players that are on losing teams. I mean, Ernie Banks never won a World Series. But when you were around Ernie Banks, you knew he was positive, and there's a strike 3 call and strikeout number 4 for Castillo, first out here of the 4th. Is it more difficult to be a good player on a good team? There's a fly ball, right center field. Billy cruising over, reaching up, and he'll squeeze it 2 away. Or is it more difficult to be a great player like a Joey Votto on a bad team year in and year out? Ernie Banks still kept a positive attitude. Joey Votto hasn't changed a bit in his approach to the game. He treats every at bat the same. He treats every game the same.
You know, we talked about that same subject a couple of weeks ago, George, and I always said, having never been a great player on either a good team or a bad team, that it would probably be easier on a good team because you're surrounded by other really good players. But you know, we asked Pete Rose that same thing, and Pete had an answer that it was more difficult on a really good team because, you know, more eyes are on you. You're under the microscope more because that good team is always in the limelight. I think it's just really hard to be a good player.
Yeah.
Even harder to be a great player.
You're not kidding.
I mean, face it. I mean, how many do you have on every team? How many great players are on the Reds? Well, you know you got Votto, right? Okay. Waiting. Okay. Let's go to the Pirates. How many great players do they have on the Pirates? And so on. And it's really special to have a great player on your ball club.
That's what makes it so amazing when you think back of the Big Red Machine era. To have as many, you take any one of those guys, put them on another club, they're the best player on the other club. But to put that many good players, go from position to position, all potential MVPs, all potential leaders at each position. And that's an era long gone. With free agency and everything else today, impossible to keep players that long. But it was, and that's why the Rosy Reds are still following the Reds, right? You know, because of that taste, that feel for what that group was like. And Castillo strikes out number 5 on the night in a 1-2-3 4th.
To combine Duvall's moments because he had so many, and we've grown used to these assists, nailing Thames at the plate. He gets great jumps, takes great routes to the ball. We see this a couple of times in the month, taking the ball right up the turf. Watch this tag by Barnhart. The assist and the tag by Barnhart, and then Duvall closes out the month on the 30th. Robin Flores again taking it right off the turf. Moments number 3 of the month of August. Top 2 coming up.
Hey, JD, you know what's great, and you've been there all year, and I always, whenever I rejoin the club, I always take a walk through the clubhouse, and there's Adam Duvall and Billy Hamilton going at each other. Who's going to have more assists? Who's going to have more home runs? How are they battling each other? The two of them, it's like a comedy act watching them go at each other.
It's like two brothers, and they have a locker right next to each other in the Reds clubhouse at home, and there's a locker that's open between them because they're two veteran players. They literally fight over the space in the locker. They're going to eventually put a piece of tape right down the middle, and the other guy can't put in anything on the other half of it. They're always arguing about who's taking up the most space.
I call it the demilitarized zone between the two of them. And I tell you, right now, Duvall has the lead. There's a pop-up by Cozart down the first base line and out of play. The whole thing started the start of the season when Duvall said to Billy, I'll have more stolen bases than you'll have home runs. And then it wharfed into assists and went from there and continued. It's you know, you need something like that. You've got to find ways to compete against each other and push each other to higher levels, and boy, they sure have done that. Great to watch the two of them compete. 1 ball, 2 strikes to the Red shortstop Zach Cozart, who walked and bounced out. Cole into his 5th inning of work. Asher Wojciechowski continues to loosen in the Reds bullpen. There's a bouncer down to third. Quick flip to first, and there's one away. Just a reminder, as you enjoy Cole One, to look forward to Miller Time later in tonight's game, brought to you by Miller Lite. Tonight, game 1 of the 3-game series here in Pittsburgh. Tomorrow, night game, Tyler Mahle against Jamison Tyone, and on Sunday, Sal Romano against Trevor Williams. It's a 1:35 start. We'll be with you for all 3. Fly ball left center field by Joey Votto. It's gloved for out number 2, and here comes Duvall. The Reds then will go to Milwaukee to play the Brewers. Billy leads all of Major League Baseball now with his 55 stolen bases. And the hope is this year, Chris, he'll finally get a stolen base title. When you look at it, he probably should have had 3 stolen base titles coming in tonight. 55, add 1, 56 tonight. But due to injuries, he's gone to the disabled list 2 straight Septembers. Doesn't he look studious? Looks like Urkel. What do you think?
Are those Jim Day's glasses?
Tomas Vera's. And by the way, Tomas is the guy that keeps the tabulation on the competition between Billy and Adam Duvall. It's his job to make sense of all their jabbering. What a great asset he's been. That's on the outside corner for a strike. 2-2.
Yes, I got you. Was that me?
Duvall 2 for 2, a double that knocked in 2 and a single to right. At this time, the Reds go 1-2-3 in inning number 5. They continue to lead it 4-2. September 4th for a post-game faith concert featuring Crowder, presented by Prasco. Don't miss the Grammy Award nominated artist when he performs Forgiven, Lift Your Head, Weary Sinner, and more live on the field after the Reds take on the Brewers. Tickets available now for as low as $12. Visit Reds.com. Another great concert, Crowder. That's Monday, September the 4th. The Reds will head home after this stop in Pittsburgh. Reds lead it 4 runs, 5 hits, no errors to the Buccos, 2-3-1. The night is over for Luis Castillo. He goes 4 innings. Will exit after a high pitch count. And Asher Wojciechowski will take over as we go to the 5th, Chris.
Yeah, the last time he pitched was a little bit more than a week ago when he had a start against the Chicago Cubs in Cincinnati. 3 innings of 8 hits, 7 earned run baseball in that game. So back on the bump here to try to keep this game in favor of the Reds. You know, one way that the Reds can limit and protect the arms of their pitchers is just what they've done tonight, which is you get a guy kind of struggling out there in Castillo, go ahead and get him out of there before the pitch count goes up to 100, and maybe he can come back a little bit stronger next time. This is the first time when you get into the month of September that minor leaguers who have never been in the big leagues before realize that that extra month of the season means an awful lot, because all the minor leagues are done as of Monday, unless your team's in the postseason. And none of the Reds minor league teams, I think, are in the postseason.
Wojciechowski, 8 starts, and in those 8 starts is 2-3 with an 8.41 earned run average. And also he's pitched 18 innings out of the bullpen in relief. So he's on here in the 5th inning to bridge the middle innings. 3 balls, 1 strike. To the pitcher, Garrett Cole. High fly ball, right field. Schebler calling, and he'll haul it in, 1 away.
You know, Wojciechowski is pitching, you know, maybe for his major league life. Not that the Reds are on the verge of letting him go or anything like that, but, you know, in the wintertime, you've got a number of players that you have to protect on your 40-man roster. Then going into spring training next year, you begin to pare down, all right, you know, who can be starters, who can be relievers, and I imagine that he'd love to have a spot in that bullpen next year. So what he does in September has a lot of bearing on where you end up in the wintertime on the depth chart. And where you end up on that depth chart may mean coming to camp as a major league player versus coming to camp as a minor league invitee. And that is a huge difference.
2 balls, 1 strike to Josh Harrison. Total of 89 pitches for Luis Castillo. And, you know, like we talked about Joey Votto and how he prolonged at bats. Great example with Castillo. Between Harrison and Freese, 33 of those 89 pitches came to those 2 batters. So the ability to foul off pitches, the ability to spoil your best pitch, strings out the opposing pitcher an extra inning or 2. Wide to third. Suarez has it. 2 away. Here are the numbers for Luis Castillo on the night. He exits with a 4-2 lead.
As usual, though, that changeup has been his best pitch tonight. He got a lot of his strikeouts on that changeup. Got McCutchen looking, and then got Josh Bell swinging on the same pitch. So, you know, that right now is his bread and butter. You know, fastball, changeup, fastball, changeup. Look at the location of the good ones.
5 strikeouts in his 4 innings of work, and the 2 runs allowed. Only 3 hits picked up by the Pirates. 2 away. Here's Marte 0 for 1. He walked in the 1st and struck out in the 2nd. In fact, it was here in Pittsburgh a month ago when Brian Price and Mac Jenkins got together, realizing the way the last 2 months of the season would go. And I mean, they changed. They've been adapting as the year progressed with all the young pitchers, but they said, look, we've got to realize that some of the things that we need to do heading into next year we've got to do now. And what you're seeing with Castillo, what you're seeing with some of the young pitchers, it's like an extended spring training in the regular season, doing some things that you have to do to prepare them for next year. And the question for Dick Williams, for this organization, Chris, is how closer are the Reds to finding their 5 starters for next year?
Well, they had to look at a lot of different pitchers. I hope they were taking notes along the way. Although I got to tell you that, you know, what happened is that these pitchers begin to separate themselves, and I think even the most novice of of a front office personnel, you know, you get the idea. If you have 10 really good pitching prospects that you think are really good and 3 of them make it, you've done a heck of a good job. And you know, they begin to separate themselves. So whether it's, you know, Sal Romano or Amir Garrett, we don't know yet. Whether it's Ricky Davis or Cody Reed, we don't know yet. So I still think there's a lot to learn about all of them, because I think that most of those guys are still way too young to write off completely. Sometimes it just takes a little bit longer for some than others.
Now the other part of that equation, and we're talking about him early, we won't see Scott Feldman again this year because he's on the disabled list. Will end the year on the DL. We talked about it involving Bronson Arroyo, whose career will be over. We'll honor him later in the month of September, but somebody like a Feldman, valuable to the development of these young pitchers, and that's a part of the package for next year as well. You figure Homer Bailey will be stronger and better. You've got some young pitchers coming in. The leadership and the stewardship of veteran pitchers helps speed up that development.
Well, there's going to be a major squeeze next year, because if, and it's a big if Anthony DeSclafani comes back in next year healthy and ready to compete at the major league level, if Brandon Finnegan is healthy and can do the same thing, you're going to really be all of a sudden squeezed for spots. So whereas in 2017 the Reds were looking for warm bodies to give starts to because they just needed innings to be covered, that will not be the case next year. So if you get a shot at it next year, you better covet that, because it's going to be much tougher to come by.
No balls, 1 strike to McCutchen, who bounced out and struck out. Marte almost leaning the other way. Great to see Anthony DeSclafani back with the club under the tutelage of the bullpen crew. You hope he's going to be healthy. You hope he comes back and gets a chance to show what he can do on the mound again.
You know, it certainly, I think that was the biggest wrench that got thrown into the pitching plans for the Reds this year, that he would miss basically the entire season.
Marte going here. It's a pitch out, and they will get him. Perfect throw. Great job by Turner on a high pitch out from Wojciechowski, but he turns it into an out. Marte nailed. Reds still lead 4-2. Sports Ohio being brought to you by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together, and by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. Down to the dugout in Jim Day.
You guys were talking about Anthony DeSclafani. He threw a bullpen today. 30 pitches. Brian Price said he looked sharp, felt great. The next step is a simulated game. Now, whether or not he makes it back to a big league mound this month is up in question. But the biggest decision the Reds want to make beyond that is to figure out if they can give him enough workload to assess if his elbow is good enough to be full go in spring. That is the biggest decision, not whether or not he can get on the mound here in this month, but come 2018 spring training, is that elbow good enough full go, or do they have to make some other procedure on it? That is the biggest decision.
Yeah, something that weighs heavily on his mind and also the plans for the Reds for 2018. Here's Scooter. Big swing and a pop-up that goes out to center field. It's knocked down by McCutchen. Rounding second, going to third will be Scooter, and he'll cruise into third with a 3-base hit. I don't know how McCutchen got a glove on this one, Chris. He went up over the wall, somehow got a glove on a ball that looked like it was out of here. Take another look.
Well, you're right. You called it a pop-up at first, George, but it just kept going and going and going. Kind of like Scooter Jeanette's season. I mean, McCutchen goes a long way, stops, looks up again, and then somehow keeps the ball from falling over the other side of the fence. That ball's going out of here without the intervention of McCutchen.
Great effort by Andrew McCutchen. Either way, a tremendous effort by the center fielder for the Pirates. That just kept carrying and carrying, and it's at the top of the wall, so it looks like it would not have gone out. There's padding that goes to within 3 inches of the top of that wall. So the padding, it hit the top of the padding and then the hard surface behind it. So it'll be a triple for Scooter. And the leadoff batter in scoring position for the Reds, and the Pirates will bring the infield in, already trailing 4-2. That's the Gold Glove caliber play that you're used to seeing from Andrew McCutchen. Suarez, 2 strikeouts. A.J. Schugel loosening in the bullpen for Pittsburgh as we head to the 6th inning with Cole on the mound. Down to third, but foul. Our IGS bringing the energy numbers for Eugenio Suarez in August. 348. His previous career best was 329. He had more walks than in any month of his career, a better on-base percentage, more homers, and more runs batted in than in any other month of his career. That's the kind of month he put together for the Reds. You talk about presence, you know, you look in his eyes, Chris, you see a different presence than you saw a year ago or even earlier this year. He's really coming into his own.
It takes a while, George. It really does.
Fly ball right center field at the warning track will be Jaso, but that'll be good enough to plate Suarez. 72nd run batted in on a sacrifice fly, and the Reds have added on to their lead. They lead at 5-2. Scooter's had some kind of year, and it continues with that 3-bagger and the run scoring sacrifice fly by Suarez. We get down to the 7th spot in the order now, and with the pitcher spot possibly due up this inning, Shackelford started to loosen in the Reds bullpen. Schebler struck out in a walk, 0 for 1. Tries to hold on it, can't do it. That's a strike. Great to have you with us. George Grant, Chris Welsh, Jim Day down by the dugout. As usual, our producer Josh Hall here in Pittsburgh. Our director is Brian Hunterman. Kevin Pennewitt, Lauren White dialing up some highlights and graphic support for us. And even Jesse Jackson made it from Cincinnati up the river, Chris. Swing and a miss. Schebler's retired for the second time. Don't forget, college football continues this weekend on FS1 and Fox. Tomorrow, Maryland battles number 23 Texas. Coverage begins at 11 a.m. Then on Sunday on Fox, Texas A&M travels to the Rose Bowl to face UCLA in a 7 p.m. Eastern time start. Well, the Buckeyes finally got it rolling last night, beating Indiana 49-21. Didn't miss a beat. I guess J.K. Dobbins is the real deal. Man.
Took him a little while to get it rolling, though.
Trailed twice to Indiana and then finally took over in the third period.
Indiana's got a pretty good passing game. Ohio State's got a pretty good defensive line.
Yeah, I think that turned the game around in that third quarter. Two and 0 to Turner. Lined into center field. There's McCutcheon, and he's got it. 101 pitches on the night for Cole. He's trailing this one 5-2. We're going to the bottom of 6. Harvey by visiting redcross.org or texting the word Harvey to 90999. By doing that, you make a $10 donation that enables the Red Cross to prepare for, respond to, and help people recover from this disaster. Now, Chris, you and I went to Houston after Katrina, and I'll never forget staying at the Westin in downtown Houston. And in our hotel, a third of the hotel was filled with refugees from New Orleans who had to go to Houston to find a place to stay. Next to me there were 6 people staying in the room. They stayed there for months. Yeah, and now it's the other way around.
Exactly right, George. They came in not knowing what extent of the damage Katrina would actually have in the Louisiana area. They thought they were only going to be there for a weekend, right? And 3 months later, they're still in Houston. A lot of them ended up settling in Houston. This has been a kind of a second nightmare.
Right now, there's only about 70% of the population that was in New Orleans back in New Orleans. 30% left, never came back. Many of them relocated to Houston. And unfortunately, with 100,000 homes damaged and 1 million cars flooded, it's going to be the same recovery story for the Houston area. And you know, what J.J. Watt has done, raising over $10 million, what Jay Bruce has done with that $100,000 challenge, and the Reds have chipped in with that, pledging $20,000. And you know, Skip and Pat Dunn, Adam Dunn's mom and dad, said Adam was out with his boat rescuing people for 2 days straight. You would expect that from the big guy, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Bouncer wide of third, off the glove of Suarez, and McCutchen will be on.
It looked like either player could get it. Suarez was in position, so was Cozart if Suarez couldn't get it. The problem was it ticked off of Suarez's glove, and nobody was able to get a handle on it.
Now goes the base hit. So McCutchen on his first hit of the night, 1 for 3 after bouncing out and striking out. And here's Bell. Josh bounced out, struck out. The Reds got 3 in the first to take a 3-0 lead. The Pirates came back with 3 hits and 2 runs of their own in the second, and then Castillo had 6 straight outs in the third and fourth. Wojciechowski walked the batter in the fifth, but this leadoff base hit by McCutchen, the first since that second inning. You got to like the offensive capabilities of this young man who's playing first. He's still learning to trade at first base, but offensively, especially from this side of the plate, looks like he's going to be an impactful player. 1 ball, 1 strike to Josh Bell.
You know, the other thing he has, George, we've had a chance to see him play a lot this year. He's got this this passion for the game. You can tell that he really loves being out there playing.
Breaking ball down and in. Now he's on a pretty good list for home runs by a Pirate rookie. Jason Bay had 26 in 2004. Bell 23, tied with Ralph Kiner. Kiner in 46 with 23. And Johnny Rizzo's on that list as well. Kiner, in fact, led or tied for the lead 6 straight years when he made it to Pittsburgh. That's a pop-up. Scooter has it, and there's 1 away. He's got it with 23 homers. There haven't been many Pirate infielders that have hit that number either, or switch hitters. I mean, Bobby Bonilla perennially was a 20-plus home run hitter. Neil Walker was. And now you can add Josh Bell to that list. Here's David Freese, singled and bounced out, 1 for 2. Wandy Peralta, the lefty, loosening in the bullpen for Cincinnati. Great to have you with us, everyone in Major League Baseball tonight, dedicating September the 1st, this Friday, to Childhood Cancer Awareness in recognition of September is a National Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Players are wearing patches emblematic of that tonight, and teams as well as Major League Baseball in its entirety contributing not just money but support to the fight against childhood cancer. Wojciechowski to the stretch, 2-0. Nips the corner for a strike, 2-1. Jaso on deck. Locked him up, and it's 2-2. They blew that one by him.
It's a nice comeback right there. Got down 3-0 and then ended up having to come right back to get him. Or maybe it was down 2-0, but he went fastball, slider, fastball, and just put him away.
Wojciechowski hits his sweet spot. 2 away, and here's Jaso. Jaso doubled in a run in the second and then struck out in the fourth. Cubs have continued to put the pressure on everybody in the Central Division. They beat Atlanta this afternoon 2-0. Milwaukee's leading Washington 1-0. They're in the third in Milwaukee. That's up and in. Indians won the first of a doubleheader against the depleted Tigers today, and they're leading in the second game 7-0. Bounce down to second, edge of the grass. Scooter has it, and that'll do it. So a leadoff base hit, no harm. Reds continue to hold on to a 5-2 lead. Pitcher spot due up first.
August. Scooter Gennett, the home run hitter, and then it was Scooter Gennett, the pitcher, on the 14th. And welcome to the mound, says Javier Baez. Pitched the bottom of the 8th, gave up a home run, throwing sidearm. He did get through the inning. And he talked after the game, not quite firing him as hard as he thought.
I don't know what I was hitting, 95, 96, but, yeah, I don't believe that. I think the radar gun might be broke or something. Yeah, that Statcast, off the bat speed, all that's fake news. So, I thought I was throwing pretty good, but no, I don't need any ice.
Yeah, the sarcasm of Scooter Gennett. I was throwing 95, 96. They said no, that was more like 65 miles per hour, and he didn't believe it. But team guy, it's going to happen every once in a while in a season where you need a position player to take the mound.
AD, keep yourself ready. You may be next.
If they'll allow me to throw underhand, I'm in.
Reds lead at 5-2. We head to the top of the 7th. Pitcher spot due up. And here's Zach Vinci, who'll pinch hit, make his debut with the Reds, just being called up today. Slick fielding shortstop, middle infielder. 15th Reds player to make his major league debut. For Louisville, 106th appearances at short, 3 at second. Some guys you just enjoy watching take ground balls. He's one of them. Just a smooth fielder. Had a great fall league last year. Now 26 years of age, native of San Diego.
He did his college work at Pepperdine, and that's where the Reds got him 37th round in the draft. And you know, anytime you're a 37th round draft pick, I think that he was probably somewhere around the 1100th player taken as an amateur in that draft that year. So there were, you know, he was, I think, 1138 or something. That means there were 1100 players that big league teams thought were better than you. And here you are in the major league. So yeah, that's something to be proud of.
Great moment for him. At bat #1 in the major leagues. A ground ball to short. Tossed out by the shortstop Mercer, and there's one away. And still to be determined how many other call-ups the Reds will make. Only 2 today. Zach and Ariel Hernandez up for another repeat performance. There's a ground ball to second, and there's 2 away as Billy's retired. Hamilton singled, stole a base, scored in the first, bounced out 3 times. He's 1 for 4. And here comes Zach. A.J. Schugel, the new pitcher for the Pirates here in the 7th inning. He takes over for Garrett Cole. Cole allowed the Reds those 5 runs on 6 hits in his 6 innings of work. When the year started, the biggest difference between these 2 clubs was starting pitching and relief pitching. And as we come to the conclusion, the final month of the season, it's somewhat the similar story. Starting pitching for the Pirates, earned run wise, is 7th in the league. The Reds are 15th, and the Reds have allowed more home runs than anyone else in the league via their starting pitching. And the Reds bullpen, especially middle relief, after the few number of innings pitched by the starters that taxed the bullpen, especially here in the second half. The Reds bullpen now 13th in the league. The Pirates bullpen 6th in the league in earned run average.
Well, the Reds, where they really need to tighten it up from last year to this year, and they didn't do it, and they do it from this year to next year as a must if they're going to get better pitching wise, is basically cut the walks down. They have been the worst in worse in the National League anyway last year, worse this year again in the National League with bases on balls given up. I mean, you're talking about having a really good defense behind you here. And I think that comes along with being a young pitcher in the minor or in the major leagues. You come up and you're not sure that your stuff is that good, so you nibble around a little bit. Next thing you know, you're walking them. Gozar thought he had one.
Schugel has a 1-2-3 inning. Gozar won't believe that. The Reds still lead at 5-2 as we go to the bottom of 7th.
telecast is presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Hey, start your weekend off with a bang with Fireworks Friday at the ballpark. Friday, September 15th. Cheer on your Reds when they take on the Buccos for as low as $12. Plus, don't miss a spectacular post-game fireworks show presented by Toyota. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Wandy Peralta will take over for the Reds. Some of the Reds faithful making their way to Pittsburgh for this 3-game set. 5 runs, 6 hits, no errors for Cincinnati. For the Reds, Luis Castillo started 4 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts, and a walk. 89 pitches, exited early after 4 as they manage his innings in his final month of the season. Garrett Cole started for the Pirates and went 6 innings, allowing all 5 runs, 6 hits. And he struck out 6. Here's Wandy to take over as we head to the bottom of 7. Bottom of the order, Mercer, Stewart, and Cole due up. Stewart in the on-deck circle. But Elias Diaz has moved into the on-deck circle with Stewart due up next. Mercer tonight grounded out, flied out. Big swing and a high fly ball into short left. Duval there, he's got it, 1 away. Mercer's 0 for 3, 2 fly balls and a ground out. And here's Diaz. Well, one guy who's gotten a lot of work and who is really proven to be a stalwart all season long out of this Reds bullpen is the guy who's on the mound now, and Peralta. So here's Diaz to pinch hit. Jose Osuna's moved into the on-deck circle with the pitcher spot due up next. Boy, bottom dropped out of that one, huh?
You know, the 2 best changeups on this team are Castillo and Peralta. They're both very hard throwers with the fastball, but they're able to take about 8 to 10 miles an hour off that changeup from the fastball speed. That's what really gets the hitters.
Wide of third and foul. Diaz has bounced back and forth between AAA Indianapolis and the Pirates this year. Charging his Cozart. Quick flip. Got him. 2 away. I mean, the Pirates have underachieved in many positions, and the injuries have caught up to them with Polanco and Cervelli, multiple stops on the DL. Of course, we talked about losing Marte for his 80-game suspension. They'll pull Osuna back, and Luplo will come in to pinch hit. So, second pitch hitter of the inning with 2 away here in the 7th. First pitch swinging, fly ball right field. Schebler calls off Hamilton and hauls it in. That's a quick inning for the Reds left-hander. Peralta gets a 1-2-3. Reds lead 5-2. Thanks, Geese. Look forward to you and Doogie taking care of business after this one's all over. And if you got the pizza tonight, I know that Doug Flynn ate most of it, guaranteed. Kent Dreamweaver, Ron Millenor and company back at the studios to keep you up to date on what's happening around Major League Baseball. And while you talk about the Cleveland Indians, let's send kudos out to former Cincinnati Red outfielder Jay Bruce, traded from the Mets to the Indians, who's ponied up a $100,000 challenge to help all the people of Beaumont, Texas. You expect that from the likes of the former Reds right fielder. Here's Dovydas Neverauskas, who takes over for the Pirates on the mound, and Joey Votto promptly picks up his second hit of the night. 2 for 4 is Votto. Joey doubled in a run in the first, bounced out, flied out, and starts out the top of the 8th with this base hit to right. If you joined us late, Billy Hamilton led off against Garrett Cole with a single, stole second, went to third when the throw went into center field. Cozart walked. Votto doubled in a run. Duvall doubled in 2 more, and the Reds led it 3-0. Pirates came back in the second against Luis Castillo. A double by Jaso plated one, a single by Stewart another, and it was a 3-2 lead for the Reds. Cincinnati got a run scoring hit by Scooter Gennett in the third, and then a sacrifice fly by Suarez after Gennett doubled to lead off the 6th. And that's where we are, 5-2 Cincinnati. Duvall's double plated 2 in the first, and then in the third he singled, went to second on a wild pitch with 2 outs, and then Scooter got him home on the base hit. Overall, 2 for 3 is the Reds left fielder.
Get some new glasses?
One ball, 1 strike from the big right-hander with Votto off first. That's inside.
Neverauskas is the first Lithuanian to make the major leagues. Made his major league debut earlier this year, back in April, when the Pirates called him up from AAA Indianapolis. Got to start over in Lithuania, as Little League Baseball has made inroads really all over the world and into Eastern Europe. Of course, the Little League World Series just ended last Sunday. Japan beating the Southwest team from Texas in the final. And Williamsport just a couple hours from here in Pittsburgh.
Pirates and the Cardinals, of course, played the Little League commemorative game, and give the Pirates organization credit for making themselves available. They gave up a home game to go down there, and when you talk to Clint Hurdle and his coaching staff and the people in the organization, they were proud to do it. Well, that guy turned the culture around here. You talk about the Reds, Chris, and we say it so often that Dusty Baker brought a winning culture back to the Reds when he took over and got the Reds into the postseason. Clint Hurdle did the same here. Nubbed down to third. They'll go to second, and that's all they'll get. And don't forget, see your Reds take on the Pirates Saturday, September 16th at Great American Ballpark. Thanks to John Morrell, the first 20,000 fans through the gates will receive a triple bobblehead featuring Reds first baseman past and present Tony Perez, Sean Casey, and Joey Votto. Catch all the action for as low as $12. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Votto retired at second on the force play, and here's Scooter. Bounced out, singled in a run, and tripled and scored a run in the 6th. That kicks away, going to second. will be Duvall. Second time he's gone to second on a wild pitch. Reds have cashed in when they've needed to. They've all year long. It's been the same guys going to the bank with runners in scoring position. Then they've done it again tonight. 3 for 6 with runners in scoring position. And Scooter a chance to do it again here.
That'll
looped
work.
into right. Duvall had to hold, and they'll hold him at third. Didn't read it real well off the bat, and stutter step, so he'll stop at third, and it's 1st and 3rd. Boy, he's come up with good at bats, Chris, especially with runners in scoring position.
3 knocks on the night now for Scooter. This is the first one of his base hits that was not hit very sharply. It's kind of at the end of the bat. Breaking ball just drops it right on in there.
So 1st and 3rd, 1 out, and here comes Eugenio. Suarez struck out twice and hit a sacrifice fly to the warning track that plated Scooter after his triple in the 6th. September for the Reds starts here in Pittsburgh with his 3-game road trip, then home for Milwaukee for 3, and then it's on to New York to take on the Mets Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of next week. That road trip continues to play the Cardinals, and then the Pirates will make their final visit to Great American Ballpark. There goes the runner, and there'll be no throw. Stolen base for Scooter. Reds will end this season with a road trip after hosting the Red Sox the 3rd week of the month. They'll end the season at Milwaukee and in Chicago against the Cubs. That's a bullet into left, a base hit. That'll get 1 run in, and Scooter will stop at second. So Suarez gets his 2nd run batted in, now 73 on the season. And the Reds lead at 6-2.
Well, he was having a night that he thought maybe would get a base hit. He struck out the first couple of times up, had a sacrifice fly on a really good swing his last time up deep into right center field, and that time a laser of a line drive on a ball that's down. He's a good blow ball hitter. Infield in, you bring that line drive approach to the plate. And the Reds just continue to add on and add on, which is nice to see. Takes pressure off the bullpen when that happens.
So the cash him in at bats with runners in scoring position continue with 2 more in this inning. Now 5 for 8 with runners in scoring position as the pitching coach for the Pirates comes out and talks to Neverauskas to try to settle him down through the inning. You deliver 5 for 8, 6 runs batted in for the Reds in scoring position situations tonight, and they lead at 6-2. Schebler, 2 strikeouts and a walk for the Reds right fielder. dirt. Good block by Diaz. And the runners hold first and third. That's off the glove of Diaz. The throw to the plate won't be in time, and the Reds will get another runner in. That's the way most of the month of August has gone for the Pirates, Chris. They had a run in July, and then August they've struggled. They have not pitched well. They have not hit well. They've not played well overall, and added up, they've lost 13 of 18 and have seen their playoff hopes dwindle.
Well, both of these ball clubs, George, have a decision to make, I think, here in the month of September as to how they want to approach this last month. I mean, you just want to call it in and play, play baseball, or you want to play hard baseball and try to win. I mean, the Reds have a chance to overtake the Pirates in the standings. That may not sound like much to somebody who's looking at the very top and seeing the Cubs and so on, but I mean, for those guys in the clubhouse, winning every night is what they want to do, and I think winning the last month would be really something special if they could do that. This is a good ball club the Reds have on paper in their everyday players. They're still trying to figure out who's going to be on the mound. But I mean, I ask you, as you look and you compare the Pirates to the Reds, which of these guys, position by position, would start on the Reds team? And you won't find too many.
Question is, can they put together a starting rotation that can put them in position to contend in 2018? So first and second for the Reds after the walk to Schebler, and here's Turner. Stewart grounded out, bounced into a double play, and lined to center. Hard down to Bell. They'll get one at second. On to first. They turn two. But the Reds pick up 2 more runs, lead it 7-2 as we go to the bottom of 8 in Pittsburgh. Pirates 7-2. Time for your Honda game summary. Reds jumped right on Garrett Cole in the first. Hamilton stole a base, got a base hit. Cozart walked. Votto doubled in 1 run. Then Duvall followed with a double to center field. The Reds led it by a score of 3-0. That's the way it stayed until the Pirates came back in the second. Run scoring hit by Jaso, and then this Chris Stewart base hit made it a 1-run ball game, 3-2. The Reds lead cut to 1. What a night it's been for Scooter Gennett. He singled in a run in the 3rd. He tripled and scored in the 6th inning, and then a base hit to right in the 8th inning for Gennett. 3 for 4 on the night. Scooter's had another productive offensive evening. While all that's going on, Garrett Cole is the pitcher of record on the losing side. The starter for the Reds, Luis Castillo, went 4 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, struck out 5, walked 1. Only 4 innings of work because he threw 89 pitches in those 4 innings. Here's Drew Storen, who takes over. And this one drilled to right field by the leadoff hitter, Josh Harrison, and he'll be in with a 2-base hit. Off the scoreboard and right, Harrison greets Storen with a 2-base hit. So Harrison has his first base hit. Josh flied out, bounced out twice, and this double to right puts a runner in scoring position for the Pirates. Here are the numbers for Drew Storen, who comes in. Castillo started. Wojciechowski pitched the 5th and 6th. A clean inning in the 7th for Peralta, and for Drew, his 58th appearance of the season. And Chris, you go down the stat sheet on the Reds bullpenners, they're all 50 or more. A lot of innings and a lot of pitches from this bullpen.
Yeah, 50 or more appearances is what you mean, George, and that's really the baseline of where you expect the number of appearances for a guy that's been up here all year long. So if you're between 50 and 65 or so, you're right in the range. When you get over 70 appearances, you're up an awful lot. And for Storen, it had been a very consistent year until, as of late, he's got a couple of appearances out there where he got knocked around pretty good. And when you're a reliever and you don't log a lot of innings, you know, a couple of bad outings can make your overall numbers look not so good. Earned run average pops up way out of control.
Runner at second, nobody out. Marte, 2 walks and a strikeout on the night. Bounce down to short. Harrison will have to hold there, and they'll get the out at first.
Boy, well, Martre's pretty quick when he wants to run.
By the slimmest of margins, retired at first, 1 away. And here's McCutchen, who bounced out, struck out, and singled off the glove of Suarez down at 3rd. And for those who joined us late, Chris, your report card on Luis Castillo: 4 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 89 pitches.
He just didn't look too sharp tonight, George. I think the Reds did the right thing by getting him out of there when they did. You know, not necessarily to save the game, but you know, maybe to save his arm and maybe allow him to come back a little more, you know, fresher next time. I mean, there's nothing to dislike about Castillo, I can tell you. Every pitcher, veterans or not, are going to have some bumps in the road along the way.
Fastball inside corner in there for a strike. Ball and 1 strike to the Pirates center fielder. That's dribbled down to 3rd and foul. McCutchen continues to climb the list of Pirate greats. The home run list, the RBI list, and the base hit list. Now with 1,435 base hits, ties Dick Grote for 14th place on Pittsburgh's all-time hit list. The Big Cobra next, number 13 at 1479. Good to see him at Great American Ballpark last week, wasn't it?
Looking good. Looking forward to his golf tournament in October.
Well, you talk about Zach Cozart, the year he's had for the Reds, and if you were to liken him to somebody, you could very easily liken him to Dick Grote. Very solid offensive player, great athlete, and a guy who was, whether it was here or in St. Louis, was just impeccable at shortstop. Great basketball player and still a basketball broadcaster. Down to 3rd, glove off his knees, the throw to first. Votto holds on. Great play by Suarez and great play by Votto at the other end. They get the out. Eugenio Suarez with a diving stop, and he gets the speedy McCutchen, and at the other end Votto somehow gets the glove on the ball in foul territory.
Well, somehow he gets a glove on the ball, and number two, he realized he doesn't have enough time to stand up and throw, so he throws from his knees. And a nice maneuver at the bag at first base by Joey Votto. That's what I'm talking about. This Reds defense is just so underrated. I just don't see other teams making these kind of plays. Now, there are some teams with good defenses. But we see the Reds defense a lot, and they are right on schedule with it.
Those are two spectacular plays at either end of that play. I mean, there are so many young first basemen who, number one, wouldn't have made that catch, or number two, it could have been a very dangerous play as well. As you saw Votto go into foul territory and narrowly miss hitting McCutchen, and he got a glove on it. For a guy that was signed as a catcher, struggled as an outfielder, they moved him all over the field. And when he first started to play first, Freddie Benavides, the Reds first base coach and the minor league defensive coordinator, tirelessly worked hours with him, and it got him a Gold Glove. Didn't stop there. In this past offseason, Votto said, I got to get better defensively, so it was a mini camp with Freddie Benavides here in Cincinnati, or there in Cincinnati, and he's had a better defensive year this year than he's had in the last 2 or 3.
I would agree with that.
Down and in to Josh Bell. And you look at the best infields over time, either league, or whether you had great shortstops and second basemen, they all had good defensive first basemen that could save errors. And as good as Josh Bell has been at the plate, that's an area defensively that he's got a long way to go to be the kind of first baseman at the major league level that buttons up your infield. A guy who came up as an outfielder, dribble foul down the first base line. But when you looked at the Pirates, you had Polanco, McCutchen, Marte, Frazier coming up too. You wondered where would Bell fit in, and really once they realized the future, probably if they kept all three, would mean they'd have to get his bat in someplace else. And really, since Adam LaRoche, they haven't had an impact first baseman. This one fouled the other way towards the line, but it'll drop for a hit. It drops in fair territory, and staying at first will be Bell. He drops one down the line. Ends up with a base hit, and the Pirates live on. It's a 7-3 ball game. Harrison scores from third.
You can see how far Duvall had to go over there. I think if he makes the dive at that ball and doesn't get it, that runner is going to go all the way around, probably to second or maybe even third. So in a 7-2 ball game, you make sure it doesn't get out of hand.
Well, you like the way he covers the plate, don't you? Offensively. Here's Freeze. Single, ground out, strikeout. And Storms ahead 0-2 here in the 8th. Game 2 of the series tomorrow. Tyler Mahle goes for his first win against Jameson Taillon. We'll be on the air with the Reds live at 6:30. The game will follow. That's a grounder through the middle of the infield into center. And back-to-back base hits. Runners at first and second, a run in. comes Mac Jenkins out to talk to his right-hander, and as he does, Raisel Iglesias, now with this only a 4-run game, Iglesias gets up and starts to loosen for the Reds. You talked about it earlier, Chris. Jaso, a lot of his career is spent as a pinch hitter. He'll be looking for something straight that he can drive early. He doubled to right, struck out, and grounded out.
I think Jaso's got one thing in mind and one thing only right here, and that's trying to put 3 on the board.
Ball Storen from the stretch with 2 away. Out in front for a strike.
Back-to-back off-speed pitches. First a slider, that time a changeup.
Bell off second, Freeze off first, Storen to the stretch. Slap the other way and out of play. Shortstop Jordy Mercer hitting 7th in the order on deck.
Oh.
Storen peers in, wanted that call, doesn't get it. 2-2. Cozart moves almost directly behind second. In short right field is Scooter Gennett at second. And we'll go full 3-2 with 2 outs, so the runners will be off. Storen battles back after a double and 2 singles. The Pirates get a run, but they strand 2, and the Reds hold on to the lead as we go to the 9th in Pittsburgh.
The top moment of August, and that would be Billy Hamilton. August 8th. Check out Billy. This is actually the catch of the year so far. Going back and leaping into the wall, making a basket catch. Against the Padres, just a thing of beauty. You want to talk about selling out. Actually overran the ball a little bit, but had the athleticism, reach back, make the catch, crashed. Just great stuff by Hamilton. We're going to actually go with co-moments. That one and the one we did in the Open. Yesterday, Joey Votto. Honoring child in Cincinnati area battling pediatric cancer. Some good moments of August, and we'll see what happens in September.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever forget Walter Herbert and the moment that Joey Votto gave Walter and his dad, Wally, and mom, Emily. Pretty special yesterday. And on this day, again, if you joined us late, Major League Baseball, the Reds and the Pirates are honoring the battle to fight childhood cancer. It's Cancer Awareness Month, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Players on both teams are wearing patches to commemorate that battle here today. Teams are also committing more than $40 million in financial support and assets for a disease that touches almost every family, and the fight continues. Here's Patrick Kivlehan to pinch hit in the 9th spot in the order. LeBlanc comes in to pitch as the Reds lead at 7-3. We go to the 9th. Wade's 46th appearance of the season. His record 4-2 and an ERA of around 5. He's pitched pretty well against the Reds on a couple of occasions. Neveraskis went 1 inning, allowed 3 hits and 2 runs, and LeBlanc takes over. Now the Reds were able to get out of that 8th inning, so with a 4-run lead, and the Reds bullpen, Shackelford gets up and starts to loosen, and Iglesias sits down. We talk often. There's a call, strike 3. Kivlehan retired. First out of the 9th inning. About the importance of middle relief, and LeBlanc early in the year gave the Pirates needed middle relief, but he's faltered in the second half. Pirates, just like the Reds, have not had the starting pitching that they thought they would have. Better than Cincinnati's, but still put a lot of pressure on his bullpen. Here's Billy. Hamilton singled in the first, stole the base, his 56th of the year, Major League leading number. Scored on a double by Votto to give the Reds an early 1-0 lead, and they haven't been headed. He bounced out, bounced into a fielder's choice, and bounced to second. So he's 1 for 4, batting for the 5th time here in the 9th. Popped him up to the right side. Josh Harrison will take charge, and there's 2 away. And don't forget, you can get ready for Reds action 30 minutes before every game on Fox Sports Ohio with all the info you need for that game with Reds Live presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Reds Live tomorrow at 6:30. The game will follow. And don't forget, after this one wraps up, Brian Giesenslaw, Doug Flynn will keep you up to date on what's going on in Major League Baseball, and we'll preview tomorrow's showdown. Tyler Mahle against Jameson Taillon. Mahle's second start. Chris, I think everybody was impressed with his first start.
I think so too. I don't think overall the numbers look that great, but you can't really draw anything from an earned run average after 1 start. I liked his delivery. I liked the way the ball came out of his hand. That 4-seam fastball really has a lot of run to it, and he's good control. And I think at 22 years old, you may say he's ahead of schedule.
Pretty good to center field. Back at the warning track, looking up. McCutchen will haul it in for the final out in the top of 9. We go to the bottom of 9. Reds holding on to a 7-3 lead. Cincinnati Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio has been brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices, all at Kroger. By Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. As we promised you earlier, time for our Miller Time moment brought to you by Miller Lite. And we always say it, as Billy goes, so go the Reds, Chris. That's the way it started tonight. Led off with a single to center, stole second, thrown it into center. He went to third after a walk to Cozart. Joey Votto doubled, and in comes Billy, and the Reds had a 1-0 lead. First inning runs, that's something that Billy's made a career of, and when he does it, the Reds are off and running, and that's the way they were tonight. No one has scored more first inning runs than that guy right there. Makes a difference, doesn't he, when he's got it going?
I really think it made a difference in this ball game when he led the game off with a base hit and being a base runner against Garrett Cole. I mean, it went downhill for Cole immediately. He walked Zach Cozart, gave up a double to Votto, and all of a sudden, you know, the Reds have 3 runs in the first inning. Cole got it together a little bit better as the game went on, but I think that early strike there really hurt him a little bit.
So the 4-run lead going to the 9th inning. Shackelford is a man who'll come in. Kevin will make his 14th appearance. He nailed down the Louisville bullpen before making the trek up to Cincinnati. Been a valuable month or so for him at the major league level. He'll face Jordy Mercer, 7th in the lineup. Mercer 0 for 3. A ground out, 2 fly ball outs. Nice compact delivery from the lanky right-hander for the Reds. All told, down at Louisville, he had 35 appearances, was 3-1, and had 12 saves in his 14 save opportunities. Votto backhands. Shackelford covers the bag, and there's one away here in the 9th. Hope you join us tomorrow for game 2 of the series. Tyler Mahle against Jamison Tyone. Then on Sunday, it's Sal Romano against Trevor Williams in the final of the series. Homer Bailey will be the starter for Milwaukee against Milwaukee on Monday against Chase Anderson, and on Tuesday Robert Stevenson will face Zach Davies in Game 2 at Great American Ballpark. Wednesday's a day game. Castillo will be back on the mound for the Reds then. Here's Diaz, his second appearance. He pinch hit and stayed in the game in the 7th, grounded to short. Osuna back in the on-deck circle for the second time for the Pirates. Suarez, 2 away. Well, the Reds are on the threshold of continuing their mastery over the Pirates this year. They are 9-4 right now, trying to win their 10th game against Pittsburgh, and a win tonight would make them 6-1 against the Pirates here at PNC Park. And with no runners on, Osuna, a home run threat, will be pulled back again, and Max Moroff will come in to pinch hit. Recall from Indianapolis in the month of August, had a good year at Indy. Three different times he's gone back and forth from Indianapolis here to Pittsburgh. One ball from Shackelford, working from the stretch. Fouled off 1-1. Paid crowd of 23,569 here in Pittsburgh tonight. Like in Cincinnati, fireworks night on Friday. Looks like somewhat less than that actually at the ballpark tonight. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Shackelford trying to nail it down, and he will. So Kevin Shackelford comes in. He'll get the baseball, and a high five from Turner as the Reds put an early 3 spot on the board thanks to Adam Duvall's double and Votto's double in the first inning, and they go on to win this one 7-3 to stretch their record to 10-4 against the Pirates and 6-1 against Pittsburgh here at PNC Park. Smiling scoreboard for the Reds tonight, Chris.
Well, George, it's been a lot like that a lot here in Pittsburgh and versus the Pirates, wherever they end up playing against each other. But good tone of the game set by the Reds when they scored 3 in the first inning, and the offense continued to pile on, and that ends up as a big old W for the Reds and Brian Price.